Welcome, welcome, welcome. As Dem Boys watch footy, it's your boy E. We got PJ, and we got a new guest this evening. We have TC. How's it going, y'all?
Hey man, chilling. Good to be back and have someone new with us. What's up, TC?
Thank you very much, chaps. I'm very excited to be here. Obviously, as an avid follower, I've been following with great and abated like love for the show. So thank you for having me on here.
Yeah, definitely. Right now, we're trying out some new things on Dem Boys Watch Footy. Thank you again for all the listeners listening to us on YouTube. We got our Spotify podcast, we got our Apple podcast, and we're still steadily growing. Right now, we are gone. Yeah, we're growing. We're growing incrementally, but we're fighting. We're a little scrappy. But yeah, today it's been talked about for some over the weekend in footy news. I know PJ really wants to dive into about the international friendlies. If you
are we can wait a little bit, you know. I mean, we don't need to talk about the U.S. right away. It's not that big of a priority.
Right now we have right behind me a Colombia jersey. So
can you play? All right. Can you? How? What are you doing?
I had a bet with. I had a bet with. I had a bet with a teammate at work about U.S. versus Colombia, and Colombia whooped us. So
okay, that's the only acceptable answer. I thought you were trying to mess with me, and I was about to come all the way to BK and say some really nasty things to you in person.
Yeah, I had to put it up. They've been listening, so yeah. If you see here, that is my Colombia jersey from when I went to go visit back in the day. Really had a good time down there, but yeah. Talk about some matches that happened this past weekend. Anybody want to go first outside of talking about the U.S. shellacking against Colombia?
Well, I just want to greet TC and say welcome. You know, we started this a couple months ago, so it was very club focused. Club seasons were heating up, and then we had the Champions League, and now it's summer, so it's we're all international, and I'm a big USA fan. I have a lot of defending to do on this show, so we'll get into that in a little bit. But TC, any initial thoughts on footy in the last week? A lot of international friendlies.
Absolutely. I think that some of the international friendlies that we saw over the last week were spectacular. We saw some amazing football being played, a glimpse of some of the talent that's coming through to Europe next season. I think some of the highlights that I saw this weekend, obviously not speaking about the USA game, was the Brazil game. A game that really, glimpses of some of the future stars in football. Endrick really coming to the fore there. Just 3 starts, 3 goals. Vinny Jr. with a new haircut. I don't know about that. Which really took my eye off. I think what I really like about what I'm seeing around the Copa America teams is that they really just bring that fighting spirit. There's good football again. I think holistically across all the internationals, you're starting to see the level of football has certainly been lifted across. What you used to see before is that internationals used to be good European teams, a sprinkle of African and South American teams. What I'm seeing now is a considerable lift of football tenacity, skill, ingenuity, and tactics across all of the teams. All of the games really are like if you're a tactician, some of the tactics that our teams are really starting to play with now are ingenious. There's Brazil play with like 3 tactics when they don't have the possession, when they have the possession, and when they're attacked. It's amazing to watch. So I was really amazed by some of those. I think the one highlight that I will say is obviously Messi. There was Messi doing what he does best, but I watched a clip of Messi unfortunately not getting given the ball, an opportunity to kind of sink the ball, and he was pissed off. This dude is 37 and still as hungry as ever. It's like 98 minutes in the game, and he's like still wants the ball. So it bodes well for the next World Cup, and I'm super excited for the Euros.
For sure. I mean,
we're gonna get to that.
Yeah, we have Messi right now with setting up for the Copa America defense as well. That's coming up first before the World Cup. And
for the Euros?
Well, I mean, definitely before the Euros as well. We're about to have 81 games this summer of footy between Copa America and the Euros. It's just
Copa America and the Euros.
Yeah, it's so many different teams. It's going to be quite insane.
That's pretty dope. And that doesn't even count the Olympics.
Yeah, doesn't even count the Olympics yet. So that's something to really enjoy. Yeah, one game I wanted to focus on was that Argentina versus Ecuador match. We got to see the timeless classic Angel Di Maria. He scored in the 40th minute
Still
against
doing
Ecuador.
it, huh?
Yeah, the man is 36 right now, so a little bit younger than Messi, but he was able to put on goal, and Argentina kind of just won that one pretty handily. The lineup for the squad was pretty simple. You had Di Maria, you had Lauro Martinez, you had Julian Alvarez, and with Ecuador, some players that are playing over in Europe right now, they didn't really have as much star power before going into their next match. So even though Messi came on as sub, he didn't really have the impact, but the squad was still able to hold him down. Like that team is still a really strong defensive unit. We got to see that within the World Cup, but what people are going to see now, especially coming up in the Copa, as to the reason as to why they're so staunch in getting beaten in a tournament style of play, is this team is just, they're hungry, they attack like bulls, and all they need is just one moment of individual brilliance.
Yeah, I agree. Do you guys think, because there was a lot of hype, I think two of the youngest teams of the last World Cup were the USA and Ecuador. There was a lot of hype around Ecuador. I don't know if I think we're going to find out very soon in the Copa America, but a lot of people have them as like 2024 dark horses. Do you feel they're a little overrated? I mean, they have a few amazing players, like either 23 or 26 or whatever it is good, but I'm not blown away. But a lot of people are hyping them. What are your thoughts?
So I think the hard part right now for me with Ecuador is they're having a hard time bridging that generational gap.
Yes, that's a good
right
point.
now you have Inter Valencia, who's
playing like the Turkish third division, or where is he playing?
Yeah, he's still going. For our listeners who don't, he's played in probably the last 10, 13 years with different squads all over the world. He's 34 now. He's currently in Serie A, but he only played one match. Yeah, it's very hard for me to say, like, he's still their best player. He's their captain. People follow him, but at the same time, they don't really have a way to bridge the gap with new talent and old and tried and tested and true players. And that's where I think they're going to have the hard time this iteration. Probably in the next few years, they'll be good, but right now, I don't think so.
I want to ask TC a question. I gave my rankings, which I'm about to get a lot of crap for the Copa America, and I had Argentina at number one. I want to hear what he thinks, but did you agree with? I forgot if you agreed with me. You had Brazil.
Yeah, I had Brazil.
Well, it's a hard one, I think.
Yeah.
You had Brazil. Okay.
I also, looking across at the team's preparations, and I think that equally important here is balance and defense. What I do see in Argentina's defense is a lot of their players are coming back from injury. You have players like the Butcher coming back as well, who's really coming back at the right time. That being said, I think it's a flip of a coin. So I think your choice is, Argentina is just as good as bad as Brazil at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, Argentina has, I think, played more cohesively in terms of talent. You could probably argue for Brazil a little bit. Granted, it's early, but Brazil's not playing well right now in qualifiers.
Yeah. I mean, even though against Mexico they went 3-2, Endrick with that last-second winner, and Mexico's, as I've stated many a times on the show, I am just not a big fan of their squad.
I have another question, though. I only saw the highlights. Did Mexico play well, or did Brazil play bad?
A mix of both. I mean, Mexico played probably out of their mind. I think they understood the task that everybody's been calling them trash, and they need to step
everyone.
up.
Yeah.
No, everyone's been saying this is the weakest Mexico team they've seen in their lifetime. And they had to come out and they played with some fire, and they gave Brazil all they could handle, and Brazil still ended up showing some class with Vinicius to Endrick. So
you're absolutely right. Maybe they played a bit badly, but I think it still takes. It's not easy to come back from 2-0 down against a good Brazilian side that's got good young players, good thirsty young. That's why I'm very behind. They've got youthful new players in that Brazil side, players eager to prove themselves, and they were cruising. That first half, they were cruising. They were playing some good football initially. They got into their Brazilian style. They were very much And so I think some harsh words were said during the water breaks. And I think, you know what, it's not easy. I played a game yesterday. We were 3-0 down, you know. We got up at 3-3 and the other team scored 2 quick goals, and that was it, resolve gone. So it's very easy. So I was very impressed by that. In fact, they could have won that game. To be fair, they had an opportunity to win that game. It wasn't for some poor finishing. You know what? Like, these warm-up games are exactly what they're supposed to do. You're supposed to try out things. You're supposed to get people in there. You're bringing in a lot of players who need that experience, who need the crowd out there, so that when you get to the games that you have a bit of the experience. And it's okay to lose some of these games. And yeah, the media is going to get on you. I think the Mexican team will come away from that game feeling a bit like, hey, not as bad. I think they would have felt like we could have won that. And I think that's something to think about. Like, they'll definitely be like, look, if we can take Brazil like that, what's to say we can't take any other team in the competition?
They always play Brazil well, though, right?
Yeah.
It's just like a Mexico thing. They kind of play down to their opponents or play up to their opponents. They play good against good teams, but bad against bad teams type vibe.
Well, you also have to remember that the Brazil team was the Brazilian B team. And to TC's point, they did play well in the beginning. You had a very early goal in the 5th minute with Andreas Pereira. And then Martinelli from Arsenal, he was able to put it up 2-0. But as well, what I was watching with the Mexico team, they were able to have some really good breaks. They were able to kind of push the pace a little bit. My issue was in the 73rd minute, once you got that own goal, and then you kept pushing on for that second, I still felt as though Brazil, they weren't really playing up to their strength. Was it because of the B team being out there?
Stop saying that. Stop saying that. Stop saying the B team. Why
can't I say the B team? The normal starters are not in there, and then the actual players came on the second half.
No.
Did you look at the lineups?
I saw the lineups. It's a squad. And like I said, it's a squad, okay? You're not going to win any competition with 11 players. That's first and foremost. You're not going to do that. You need a full squad of players. A full squad of players. That's why when Ronaldo got injured in the Euros, the team won without him, because you need a full squad of players. Otherwise, it would just be one game, and that could happen with any team. The reason I say that is because, and not to say, I'm not saying it's insulting to Andreas Pereira, who scored a goal, to call him a B team, who's had an excellent season for Fulham.
Okay.
But,
he's still a player that is not a normal starter for the squad. Is that right?
Sorry, you just said a starter for the squad or starter for the starting 11? Because he's in the squad.
I said a starter for the normal squad. When you see that original 11 that comes out for the Brazilian national team, is he always a starter for that squad? Up against the other midfielders that he's playing with, is he a normal starter in that squad?
I would say no, but I'd say look who they've left out. And look who Casemiro. Look who's looking for right in the middle of the park. They have Paqueta. They've got other defensive midfielders who can take that position. They can play. So I'm not saying he's going to start. I'm saying he might actually start 1 or 2. You know what? He is going to start 1 or 2 games. So I would like to throw down a bet to anyone wearing an Arsenal shirt today that Andreas Pereira will start 1 game in the Copa America. Start. So just to debase what you've just said as a B team player. I'm not saying, and I think you're right, I don't think he's the main starter. Absolutely right. You're 100% correct. I think just to my point that he will start 1 game.
I'll tell you what, I'm excited for Brazil to actually bring their A team to the Copa America, because the last Copa America in the United States, I believe Brazil was the only team that didn't bring their A team, because they had the tournament the year before. Mm-hmm. So it'll be nice to see a full Brazilian squad live. Before we rag on the U.S., any other friendlies catch your attention, guys?
I have one more, the England one. England. Yeah. I love the England one because of the headlines it brings, because of the bullshit around the world and England bringing it home.
Yep.
I think that it was interesting because of the lineups that they had up there, the players that they had. Gareth Southgate has gone with a lineup that's based on current form, which no one can hate, I think, in my opinion. It's just how you utilize those players, you know. But I think when looking back at the game, they should have won that game easily. Cole Palmer was definitely deciding that he was going to play football how I imagine Eric would play football.
Whoa.
You know, not be able to do what needs to be done, have multiple chances. And I say this, PJ, sorry, I am very competitive, and
that is how he plays.
Yeah.
You're right. You're not
Just-
wrong.
You guys are saying that I don't play a part of the team. I got it. Okay.
No, not at all. We said he wasn't able to put the balls in the back of the net. That's what we said.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That wasn't really
Um,
Cole Palmer's position most of that time. He was on the right, switching into the middle. He had some really good passes that people weren't able to get onto the end of it to actually put it in. He was trying to facilitate, which he didn't do. Being subbed on was my boy Bukayo Saka, and then somehow England has decided to make him the poster boy for all of England's issues. So England did lose to Iceland 1-0 yesterday. And as to TC's point, it wasn't a really great showing.
But they shouldn't lose to Iceland.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the main issue that everybody's seeing right now. To TC's point, there's some racial play within the media that's been going on that we can touch on a little bit, but because that has the way that it's being portrayed right now in England with their black players, every time something falls onto them that isn't very quite choice of words, suddenly all issues get pushed onto their team, onto their black players, and never their players that have actually had some issues. I'm talking about Harry Kane. When he's not showing up, he never really gets the blame for it. So that's what I kind of want to point out.
Absolutely. That was a lot of it. And I'm glad that's been raised because that's been noticed by the media as well. And that's just been a continual portrayal from the last Euros that happened to Sancho and Rashford with the penalty miss. I have to come back to another point. But you said something interesting that really just got me interesting. You said that wasn't Cole Palmer's job. It's funny because Cole Palmer is a striker.
He's attacking mid. He was top 3 in goals this year, but when he's playing for his country, they're asking him to slide in as a right attacking mid, a center mid. Yeah. He's not playing actual striker, correct?
No. So if you look at, I disagree. So if you look at one of his roles, is he fills into the hole between the midfield and on the right hand side, specifically in between the lines, so that he can drop into that and then play a run off that and then have the opportunities. However, if you look at the game, if you look at that game, he had 3 or 4 chances, and I mean 3 or 4 guilt on chances. If he was in a Chelsea shirt, 100% he would have nailed those. So I don't buy any of that. He had a good game, 1 or 2 goals. He was trying to be too pretty because he was, and that's just a sign of someone who's got calmness in front of the goals. When you're able to decide, I don't need to kick it, I'm going to go around the keeper. All he tried to do, and we've all been there, and that's a good thing to have. But he had 3 or 4 chances to kill the game, which I think is not a bad thing. That means that they're creating chances. Harry Kane, like you rightly said, he had a ball that was clipped into him by this exactly like the player you said. He fell into that gap in between the defense and the midfield. He chipped it to Harry Kane on his right foot, a volley. This is what you dream of when you're a 5-year-old, so that you can just straight into the back of the net. I promise you, Harry was already thinking about celebrating because he had it just over and he was already half celebrating. Should have scored that. Absolutely right. He should have hit that. I think there were a lot of players that didn't step up. It was another chance by Gareth. Like I said, Gareth Southgate really just experimenting with his team.
But as well, based on the previous Euro, they made it to the final and they lost. And so that's probably, to TC's point, they have a lot of expectation right now, a lot of weight on the world on their shoulders.
Should, though.
Yeah,
they should.
They are in their actual good years. They have solid balance. They have the right players playing up front. They have a really solid defense. Midfield is strong on paper, but the games aren't played on paper. So
absolutely,
we'll see kind of how they go with it. And, I would sit Foden. I would keep Saka on the right. I would put Cole Palmer on the left to actually switch out with Jude Bellingham in the middle. And then I would keep Harry Kane up front if we were staying on the England squad right there. So.
It's a solid team. I think it's a solid team. I'm going to throw this wild accusation just for England. England will not make it out of their group. They will not make it out. I've been supporting England.
Are you an England fan?
I'm an England fan. I'm an England fan. They will not make it out of their group. They will not.
And give us some pourquoi. Give us some
let's
okay.
Okay.
We're getting a little excited.
I was getting excited.
Had to take us a little bit back real quick. But wanted to thank everybody again for giving us a listen at Dem Boys Watch Footy. Thank you again. We are here with TC, PJ, and E. We've been talking about some international friendlies, and now we're about to dive into the U.S. versus Colombia. PJ, need to hear your thoughts on it because last week you said Colombia was going to be beneath the U.S., and they came out strong against us. James Rodriguez, I don't know how he scored that goal. That ball just beautifully floated into the top right corner. And it was just an onslaught from there. And so that man just comes alive for his national team. Never for a club, but national, he is always front.
That's what they were saying before the game. All the guys were like, we don't even think he's like starting in the Brazilian league. But it's just when he's with Colombia, he just, he was supposed to be the next best thing after he was such a badass in 2014. His club career was kind of up and down, but he's still, when he puts that, I was going to say Colombia yellow, but you got the alternate blue kit.
Yeah.
He kills it. But did you guys both watch the game, first of all?
I only watched the first half, and then I left for the highlights.
Did you see the game, TC?
I did the same. I watched the middle. I'd say from the 20 minutes into the end.
I turned it off after that goal. Honestly, I was just like, "This is bad."
It's so funny though. There are some players that when they're playing for their club, they're like Usi Benayoun, if anyone remembers him. Okay, but when they're playing for their
that's a throwback.
That's a throwback. Yeah.
Right. And when you're playing for your international, you're freaking Pirlo. I don't know how that happens. It's just one of those things. And yeah, it's James Rodriguez. A lot of people were asking. They thought he had retired. Mm-hmm. Everyone around me thought like James is still the captain. Mm-hmm. Honestly, we looked at people looking like, does James still play? And people were like, where does he play? Where does he play? Because no one thought James still played. Mm-hmm. He literally was just off the radar. And I think that it was this obscurity that we find by watching a lot of the leagues that get a lot more media, especially if you're not following specific leagues, you completely forget about these players. And these are the times when they come back and you're like, oh, yeah. And I think the scouts also do that as well because players and scouts are very similar to that as well. So you'll see player does well in the tournament, what happens?
He gets picked up.
Bring him back from China or wherever he goes, he comes back all of a sudden. And so this is a great opportunity for people to get out there and get one more check. We know what's happening. Premier League's got more money than anyone else. So where's a great place? Saudi's got good contracts going on.
Atlanta United.
They've been talking more about San Diego, who just got Irving Lozada.
Chucky. I mean, the two things that I think that I underestimated or overestimated was, our coach isn't the greatest, which is pretty obvious for anyone that's a U.S. national team fan. We're going to dive more into that as the tournament goes on. And I could kind of tell that Turner was a little shaky, not just in his handling of the ball, but his direction of the defense. He was demoted to the bench at Forest, which is not good. So I think those are really the two primary things. I actually think the attack wasn't that bad. They had some good opportunities, but this is going to sound really obvious, but Colombia played really well and we played really shitty. So it really was both. It wasn't just one or the other, but I'm not just saying this, although maybe you're gonna hate on me, but at the end of the day, it is a friendly. I'm very nervous, but it still is a friendly. I mean, it literally is an exhibition match. Crap result.
No, you have to talk more. You can't just throw it off. That's a 5-1 loss, man.
Canada lost 4-0, and then I forgot who they played. Was it Argentina? And then they just drew.
Yeah.
Then they drew France after. So
France wasn't playing all of their big guns,
but we played like absolute crap. But it was still
and we played our big guns
friendly.
Yeah,
we did. Yeah, we had a full 11. I mean, Pulisic left after 45, but we had what was very close to, if not our full starting lineup. I mean, I think friendlies should be You can hear your guys' thoughts in a second, But I think just beyond the U.S., I think friendlies should be taken with a grain of salt because most teams have their maybe 8 or 9 or 10, and then there's 2 or 3 positions they're trying to figure out. But most of the people that are going to play. So there's a little bit of experimenting going on. So if you lose well, that's good. We didn't lose well either. So I will say that. But, I mean, when you look at the U.S. has some great results in friendlies in the past that don't mean shit. We beat Germany under Klinsmann. We drew France right before they won the World Cup. So I think if they get demolished by Brazil, if it's like 4-0 against Brazil, then I'm going to be shitting my pants. But if we lose to Brazil 1-0 and it's like a great game, I'll say, okay, I'm feeling okay.
Okay. Let you go rock on that one, TC.
It's interesting. When I look at the Colombia team on paper and I look at the USA team on paper,
which I looked at very intensely when I gave the rankings, and I thought they were like this. I thought they were very, very even.
I would have said Colombia was going to win that match before. Definitely, the odds were definitely in Colombia's favor. If I'd love to see the bookies for that game, regardless, I think it was slightly ahead to win.
It was 90% Colombians. Hopefully during the real tournament.
Oh, sorry. I meant for the US. I thought you meant for the US. I was like,
Colombia was at home, basically.
I honestly, just from a football, Colombia for me, they have a lot. The goals that they scored, granted, 1 or 2 that the USA gave were just pathetic defensive.
The first one was.
Yeah, and then there was good teams will punish you, and that's a sign of a good team. If you take those chances and you punish them. If you look at some of those other goals, 3, 4, I think the second, the third, the fourth, they were great footballing goals. Passing, speed, movement. They tore apart straight through the US, regardless of who was in there. They tore them apart.
Yes,
and
1,000%.
It was quite pathetic in terms of how easy they were able to do that. So they need to look at how rigid the formations were, and there are a lot of things to look at if you want to dissect the USA team. I'll say this. I'll say, yes, there were friendlies, and you said 100 they mean nothing. I've seen teams lose big goals and friendlies. But there is something in saying, and when looking at the way teams crumble and their attitude in towards that. So I think for me, USA was 2-0 down, scored a great goal. That was a great goal. And even before they had great opportunities. They had some really great opportunities.
Yeah,
I'll say I saw some great football, which for me as a football purist, I was very impressed by their technical skills, their awareness of space, and their movement, which was really pleasing to say. I could say that to the coach. I think the team really moved well. That first few minutes, especially when it was 2-0 down, they came back and they scored that goal as well. Great goal, great movement, nice passing. The fabrics are there. What can happen when you chase a game at 2-1 is exactly what can happen. You start pushing too hard, people are pushed up, and you get cut up by good teams. It could have gone either way. Liverpool tried to do this to Man United a few times. And you know what happened? They weren't able to score. No, honestly, they should have won those games 3-1, 4-1. We know what games we're talking about.
Yeah.
And they weren't able to be as clinical. And that's what happened with Colombia. That's all that happened, is that USA pushed. They were very clinical, very thorough, and that's very great. They were on any other day, could have missed and that kind of thing. So, I think a pinch of salt to take. I don't think USA be scratching their backs and going like, oh, it's all's well. They'll learn things from there. There was, like I said, there were positives to take out of that. You'll dust yourself off and you'll just pretend you're an Arsenal fan for a day and you'll be better the next day.
I wanted to go back to the first thing you said. You were talking about on paper. Do you think Colombia is a better team on paper than the U.S. is?
1,000%
On paper, not talking about coaches. When you look at the lineups, the guy who shredded us up plays in the Brazilian league. All of our players play in top 5 European leagues. It's to say 100% is insane. It's very. You think they're slightly better, but if you pull up the rosters right now, the clubs they play at, how much they play on these clubs, it's very even.
Okay.
We do have to get into our last subject of the evening, so
we'll save it for next one.
Yeah, but do love the energy from you.
Let us know in the comments what you guys think. Who is a better on paper? Because when we factor in the coach, Colombia is probably better, but on paper, I think it's extremely close. So, what's going on, E?
Yeah. Our last topic of the evening, we're going to be talking about the Euros, giving a quick preview, as we were kind of alluding to earlier. and wanted to see where we're taking the different teams, who we think is going to be in the final, who's going to be the big surprise, and who's going to be the big dud of the tournament. So, as we spoke about a little bit earlier, TC definitely had some provocation with what he was saying England's not leaving their group. So he's calling them the biggest dud of the tournament. PJ, if you've had a chance to look at the Euros, all the different groups, do you have a big dud?
I want to hear why, because I actually think England's going to do decently. I mean, a bad coach is, I mean, Southgate's controversial. A bad coach can certainly screw things up, but the England team is so stacked. Are they really that incohesive?
No, and this is what I mean.
But they're pretty balanced too. Like
they are balanced.
I
look at their group, and unfortunately, their group is full of people that no one expects anything from. Yeah. No one has anything to lose from. Slovenia, Denmark, and Serbia. Okay, Denmark have won this tournament. Please, let's not mock them. Have England?
That's true, but Denmark.
It's a good team.
Been a while. It's been a while.
Exactly. No. I mean, Denmark have lifted the trophy. Have Arsenal lifted the Champions League? Negative. So they have lifted the Euros.
And that
has nothing to do
with the European Championship.
Let's stay on topic. That has nothing to do with what I believe in those three. And you asked me a question, PJ, which I think is critical. Those teams that are in that group, honestly, if you look at those teams, really, there's no superstars in the other teams. Okay, they're all hard teams to break down. They're going to be very hard teams.
Serbia has a solid squad.
Exactly. Denmark have got a solid squad. They've got a team that works all from themselves, all from countries that don't expect much from their footballing teams, other than to show them to show pride. I promise you, all of those teams are going to be hard to beat down. None of them are like, expect them to win. I promise you, and that's the problem for England. If they were, let me think, Netherlands, Spain, or whatever, I might have a better chance because there is going to be a lot more emphasis on beating those teams. These teams are going to be expected to win, and they're not going to. England have done this to us too many times. Trust me.
Trust me. Very, very tainted fan. I understand.
For sure. I would say my dud for the tournament would actually be Spain. A lot of people feel as though that they're going to come back and actually do well this tournament. They've been pretty down, but I actually could see Italy and Croatia taking over this group and Spain being the odd man
That's
out.
A really tough group. I mean, Albania's kind of a wash, but you have a world-class level team is not going to make it out of the group there.
Yeah, and Italy, even though they weren't able to make the World Cup in qualifying this past World Cup, they're still a really strong squad. They've been rebuilding pretty well. The Serie A is the strongest it's been since the early 90s and
you think so?
Early to mid-90s. Yeah, Serie A right
now. That's cap right there.
Would you agree with that, DC?
Nope, that's
really?
straight
cap. I want to believe that because a lot of the U.S. players are in the Serie A.
No, that's straight cap.
Okay. In European leagues, they have the most teams that are going to be in Europe right now. They have 9 teams going to be in Europe. Compared to every other league in Europe, it's not it. We just saw in the Europa League final, the top team of Germany just lost to the 5th team over in Italy. We've seen, Fiorentina lost to Olympiacos, which was a rough one, but there was 2 Italian teams in 2 finals. So that's where I'm going to say they're the strongest they've been since the 90s. I don't think that's a cap statement to say.
It's just hard to say that when they've had players, like you're saying, the strongest they've been. They've had, in the 2000s, they've had Maldini's, Alessandro, they've had Pirlo's, Del Piero. I can't take you. I can't.
Okay.
I cannot.
I get it.
No.
You're a football boomer, but
I'm not a football boomer.
You are. That's all you're saying right there. You're a football
what I'm
boomer.
saying is that you just said since the 90s. I'm saying, well, in the 2000s, like there's quite a big chunk of years that you're saying that their players are not as good as the players. Who are the players?
The only reason why I'm not counting the 2000s is solely
Barella?
because...
Are you talking about Barella?
No,
who are the players in
I'm talking about the
Serie A?
match fixing. I'm talking about the match fixing issues in Italy during that time.
Who are the players in Serie A?
As to why.
Who are the players in Serie A besides Victor Osimhen? Who are the players in Serie A?
Okay.
Name some of the top players to you. 5 top players there. Let's go. 5 top players. Off the top. Let's go, boys.
Rafael Leao, Osimhen. You have Martin. You also have Thuram. and you have
Theo Hernandez.
Yeah, Thuram
and Theo Hernandez, right? Great choices. Fuck out of here. None of those guys would start for like. Let me tell you, Theo. Okay, Hernandez, great left back. Yes, Victor, great. Most teams would take Victor, great striker. He's one of the players obviously out there. But I think besides that, the other players...
I'm in the middle on this because I want to root for Serie A because all of America's good players are there.
American players are there, yeah.
But
that tells you everything you need to know, boys. I'm sorry.
I think
a
league ranking. We need to, and in a future episode, we should have a good debate of the European league rankings, like 10.
Yes,
we'll save that. But I think that would be really good.
Like I said, Italy and Croatia are going to take that group over Spain. Spain has a lot of promise going into this tournament, but I just don't see it. PJ, what about you?
Well, I think, and a really exciting story is that Ukraine is going to be in this tournament, right?
Yep.
So I think that should be a major storyline because of the political situation there, and also I don't think they haven't made it in a while. So I think everyone's going to be rooting for them for the most part, and I think that's going to be a nice little subplot for the tournament as well.
Okay.
Good question. If they have supporters, right? Their supporters are coming to support
That's
them.
That's a good question. I don't know
who's going to be supporting them and who's going to be at the front lines. You know what I mean? That's something I'm wondering. And if it's like, are they going to rotate? It's just it's not I'm not trying to be funny. I'm just serious questions. You know what I mean? And just something I was thinking right now. Just something to think about. Like serious question. Serious.
You mean like fans in the stadium?
Yeah.
That's gonna be tough. What I was thinking more globally, that's a good point. Actual physical support in the stadium, that might be a little difficult. Yeah.
Okay. So right now, I would say tournament predictions. I would probably say, I would probably still go France is probably going to make the final. I'd even push for, I want to see it happen once in my life. Belgium actually work up to expectation.
Do they? They're just
there. They're just there.
Are they still kind of relying on their older generation, though? I mean, do they still have the talent, like overall?
Yeah, they have new talent that's coming through. A lot of good new younger players, and even their older generation, they're our age and they're still playing. So
that's not good.
You know what's interesting? You know what's interesting about countries like Belgium and even the Netherlands?
Croatia,
is the size of their countries and the
Extremely
ability
impressive
to continually produce like football players and consistent good teams. I'm interested to see some of the matchups in the groups that lead up to some of those games that you talk about in the final stages.
100%.
So games like Netherlands versus France, obviously. I think another one is going to be like, I definitely want to see a Portugal kind of versus Turkey. That's going to be great. I'm sure tickets are still going for that one. Italy versus Spain, Croatia versus Italy, like that whole matchup. It's going to be insane. I think any game with Germany is going to be great to go to. The traveling Scottish are really great traveling fans.
That's a pretty good accent.
A few friends who are traveling for the Scot, and they're going just for the vibes. They're not expecting anything. So I've been speaking to a couple of mates there who are just going literally to tear it up, drink some beer, enjoy the sun in Germany. And I think the dark horses that are going to come out of there, like you said, Peter, you mentioned there are a few teams that are not going to come out of here that are expected. So I really love that part is guessing who's going to be the dark horse that you never expected. And it's going to be someone like Slovenia. It's going to be a Serbia. I don't know about Albania, but it could be,
I was going to have Serbia as one of my picks because I feel like they've had a solid squad for a while and they haven't really made any noise. I think they could have a chance. This might be their
over the
time.
Danes? Wow.
It's possible. They have a good team.
They are a good team. He said something about Spain, and I'm looking at Spain going, they're one of their most envious squads in the Euros. Their talent is stacked with young, youthful players. Players like, you've got a lot of you've got Pedris, you've got the Gavis, you've got, and a mix of older in there. They've also got players who play for clubs, long-term clubs as well, which I love. It used to be a hard mix-up in the 2024 Barcelona and Real Madrid players. It's now a strong mix of good Spanish players along, and I think they're coming to a good age. They've had a good tournament before. They've had the experience, and I think They're another team you need to watch out for. No one's expecting much from them, but they're coming
That's
through.
true.
You know.
People aren't really talking about Spain.
Exactly, and that's exactly why they do that. You know.
Well, that's why I was saying that I think Spain is not going to do well, is because Italy and Croatia is Croatia's kind of last dance right now.
100%. Modric's not playing in the World Cup when he's 40. This has got to be his last tournament.
You're saying that because it's Modric's last dance.
No, Croatia still is a really, really good squad. Like their golden generation is just about done. Italy has a really good squad. Spain, I think they won't be able to make it this Euro. They'll probably do really well within the World Cup in the next couple of years. But right now, this is going to be a really good tournament for experience. This is going to be a good place to showcase these young kids. And
Spain could be a good 2026 team, yeah.
Exactly. But 2024, I am not giving them any love or any support.
Are we going to show any love to Germany because they're playing at home?
I don't feel it.
No one wants to root for Germany, but you can't discount home field advantage.
Germans are one thing, especially when it comes to tournaments at home, consistent, technical. I think they've got a new coach, you know. Yeah. So there's things that are happening there that you're going to be like interested to see. I like their team. No one's talking too much about them as well.
No.
Kai Havertz. They've got Kai. They've got some of the players from the Bayer Leverkusen who haven't lost. They lost one game in like 56. The real Invincibles. You know, they really are looking like a team that's on a journey. Like Spain, to his point, it might not be this Euros, but it also can click into this Euros. It depends how you need a bit of luck in these kind of things, boys. You need luck. You need everything to happen. People get injured. It's a
injury. I was going to say injuries. Yep.
Yeah.
That's why depth is important.
It's the end. My problem, and I hate to say it, I love football, but I'm worried about our players at the moment, and this is the biggest thing I'm seeing. They're coming at the end of the longest season they've ever been. Are you
talking about
just all players?
All players. Yeah. Players' welfare. They're coming off the longest season ever. Yep. You know, hence is why some teams have seen a lot more increase in injuries. You're seeing players talk about it. And I'm just, you know, I'm fearful for the amount of football they still have to play and then have 2 weeks holiday and come back. And we need them to do something. Because there we are, you know. So that's the big thing. But I think, like, looking forward, I think you're going to see a lot of upsets, I think, and this is football. Anything can happen in football. That's the best thing about it.
This is going to be an awesome summer. I mean, there's just so much going on.
81 games.
We need to talk about the Olympics, like you said, TC. So let's go.
Yeah, we got 81 games this summer of footy. Yeah, let's hope that USA can actually do some things. So.
And then there's the summer tours into America, you know? Yeah. Man United, Arsenal, that kind of stuff.
I saw that stuff. There might be there's early talks of potentially some EPL games being played in the States in the future as well, which could be a future topic.
Yeah, that's definitely something to kind of keep an eye out for. But yeah, you guys have you guys have any closing thoughts before we close out?
And it's all about the money. That's why they would do it. That's why Copa America is in the U.S. It's going to be, like you're talking about, the payout for James Rodriguez. It's going to be the biggest. I mean, international footballers generally don't make as much money than with their clubs, but this is the biggest payout of the Copa America of all time. I forgot what the number is, but some crazy number. Selfishly, I'm jacked up that it's going to be here, and then the Euros are after. So I'm just overall in a good mood, even though we got spanked by Colombia. But we're going to come back for Brazil.
All right. TC?
Yeah, I think it's the summer of football. There's a lot of things about to happen. Tournaments, transfers, squads for next seasons, and really looking forward to kind of like what transpires and who makes it through the summer.
Anthony's playing great right now. I don't know. I mean, he held down the left side.
I think we need to play like LA Galaxy. Oh, they signed, what's his name?
LA,
yeah.
They just signed, Giroud just signed with LAFC.
LAFC.
That's LAFC,
yeah, but Marco Royce just signed with the LA Galaxy. Also, some stupid rules with the MLS. This is what I can close out with, honestly. So, MLS and their transfer rulings, they essentially have a dibs rule within the MLS where the LA Galaxy had to pay Charlotte FC $250K because Charlotte FC said that they wanted to sign Marco Royce, but Royce said no, he wanted to play in LA. So what's the point of having these DP rules if you're not going to essentially follow them? because Charlotte FC is not a good squad, and they were like, "Hey, we have a chance to sign a good player.
Yeah, we need him."
And suddenly, LA Galaxy, because they're in LA, the player Marco Royce was like, "I don't want to play in North Carolina. I want to play in
Can you
California."
blame him though?
I
Who
can't
lives
blame
in
him.
North Carolina.
But I'm talking about the whack rules of MLS and
You're
their
right.
transfers. That's
You're right.
something that we have to see more of and more people talking about, because right now that is such a weird, crazy story
Facts.
to end off.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank everybody again for giving us a listen to Dem Boys Watch Footy. We hope you have a great one. Have a good one. Bye.
Ciao.
Thank you very much for having a non